morning there. Happy Monday. You got the Smell Test podcast here with your guy Whiff. And hope you had a really good weekend. You did some fun stuff. Got your honey-do list done there. And you're back at work and you're going, wow, this is a lot less stressful than all the stuff I had to do over the weekend. But hopefully you did something fun. Watch some of the sports, ignoring all the silly stuff there with bending your knee like you're an idiot and what have you. Over stuff that's got nothing to do with playing a game, eh? And had a good time with your family. And back to work again, and now making the world a better place in your own unique way there. So I want to talk about this thing this morning, and this is pretty fast here for your cooler talk there. Why does anybody care about Donald Trump's taxes at this point there? I don't understand it. They're bringing this thing back up again about his taxes. He's been the president for 4 years, and they keep going after his taxes. What point does it matter now? If you're trying to get something criminal on the guy, then go do your criminal thing, but you don't need to keep talking about where your taxes, where your taxes. This is the thing. You're not required to give your taxes if you're president. That's something that people have did, but it ain't a requirement there. And for that matter, the president there is not taking any salary for being the president. You know, he's been giving it to other different parts of the government to help with the parks and what have you, and the military. He's been donating the money. He ain't even taking the money. And he actually lost money in his value there as an individual, because he set aside some of his dealings as a result of becoming the president. So this is a little ridiculous here, this whole idea that getting his taxes and what have you. It's just, to me, this is the kind of problem on the Democrat side of things. You don't need his taxes at this point. It's so inconsequential in the big picture of all the stuff. You need to look at what he's done over the last 4 years. They're going back to stuff 4 years ago. Are you really that bad off that you got to go back to something from before he was president? Something he wasn't even required to actually give or show people? And you're worrying about that? That's so silly. That's so like, what's the word there? It's petty. That's the word. It's like petty. You're going after the man's taxes at this point. God, please help us understand why you're doing this here. This is so silly. I mean, what are you going to get from his taxes at this point that's going to change what he does as the president? If your conversation or your argument there is, well, if we know what he paid in taxes, we're going to know what he didn't pay in taxes. Where there's a lot of people who didn't pay a lot of stuff in taxes. What difference does it make what he did or what he didn't pay in taxes at this point? Every business person in the world takes as many deductions as they can to save on the cost, because that's how they make money. That's capitalism there. And if you got a problem with capitalism, and it means one or two things: either you don't like the idea of people doing free enterprise, or you are jealous and you don't have that much money and you're like, it's not fair. I want as much money as they got. Well, why don't you go out and earn it? Come up with $1 million idea or $1 billion idea. Needing this man's taxes is so silly. And they got the vice president guy out there going, we've never seen his taxes. So what? Who cares? No one's telling you to show your taxes. You showing them is your choice, but we know where you've been for the last 12 years, 47 years. And it ain't like you haven't taken deductions for things you got. Please, spare me. Ain't nobody believing that baloney. I hope if you're believing that baloney, man, I could sell you some other kind of stuff here if you're that gullible. Donald Trump's taxes mean nothing. They mean nothing. It ain't going to compromise the United States, Dick. Tell me how what he's done has compromised the United States. Because if you're talking about him being, his behavior there and the way he does the Twitter thing there, that don't make no difference in his taxes. You're going to say, well, he's, let's say you want to say he donated to, white supremacy groups, or he donated to excessive Christian organizations or far-right things or what have you. Well, if they was 501c3s, he had every right to do it. Just like anybody who gives money to an organization that other people think is far left there. He had every right to do it. They had every right to do it as long as it was a 501c3 and his legal nonprofit there. If you're saying he took unnecessary deductions or what have you, well, let him do it. Let the IRS inspect him. Well, he's got control of the IRS. Well, he won't have control of the IRS at some point. Why aren't you waiting until he's not in charge of the IRS and then having people look into it? You're trying to create drama there inside between people in the government there for no reason. And we already know there was tons of stuff going on back there with the Lois Lerner lady there going after right-wing groups and challenging their nonprofit status there. So please, don't be silly about this nonsense with his taxes. That doesn't mean anything. I gotta try and still figure out why you think that's important. What is so important? You think it's gonna lead back to Russia? For crying out loud, everybody knows at this point who's got half a brain working that there was no connection with Russia. There wasn't just normal business there. They could never file charges. You know what's really hilarious? They spent like 3 years doing this investigation into Russia. All this stuff is coming out now showing that he had no relationship with Russia, that everything with Russia was connected to the Hillary lady and a lot of those folks over there on the Democrat Party. But what happened after 3 years of looking into Russia? They found nothing. So then they had the Ukraine phone call and what have you, where Trump is asking the president of Ukraine there to look into Hunter Biden, which turns out there was good reason from the sounds of it there. If he was making money during his father's term as the vice president there and making money, and there's been lots of stuff talking about it. Go look it up. Don't trust me here. Go look it up. Let it see if it passes the smell test for you. But irregardless here, they couldn't find nothing with the Russia thing, so the Ukraine thing came up and they jumped on it. They didn't ask for an investigation, an independent investigator. They rushed it through the House there. And they impeached him on that because they had the dominant number. So in other words, they just used the leverage they had inside the House there to impeach the man. That's very petty. That's very, very petty. That doesn't say much about you there as leaders if all you do is go after someone just because he's not of the same ideological what have you perspective there. It doesn't say much about you. That sounds really petty. Why don't you have policies that make people want to vote for you? Why do you have to try and, just blame the other guy and say, oh, this guy is bad. He's bad. I ain't never seen anybody blame somebody so much as these people are blaming the Trump guy. How long this guy been in politics? Less than 4 years as an active politician. Serving in government. Vice President Biden's been around for nearly 5 decades there. And you think this guy ain't never done nothing rotten? That's absurd there. That's absurd. This guy, you think this guy has destroyed the world, the country in 4 years, less than 4 years? Come on, that's silly. That ain't even good thinking to begin with there. That is a bunch of people who sound like the worst sports in the world. Like you lost a game, so you're like, well, it's the other guy's fault there. He handled the ball wrong. It's the way he handled the ball that made us lose it. Why don't you grow a little, integrity there and go, hey, we lost, all right? We got to win based on good policy. It'll make people like us. They didn't like your policies. Get the heck over it there. You're looking for everything. Going back to the very beginning, you keep saying, okay, he's a racist. You keep saying he's committed to Russia there. You keep saying his taxes ain't seen. You've been saying that over and over for 4 years. Can't you get something new that actually has a value to the country? Everything is going against this one guy. Where's your policies? Everything's just straight up hate. That's silly. That's so petty. That's such a worst sport. I've seen 8-year-olds who can handle losing better than these people in this Democrat Party right now. That's so silly there. Why Trump ain't releasing his taxes is none of my business. I wouldn't show you my taxes either if I was running for president. It ain't none of your business is what I spent. It ain't required, and I ain't gonna do it if it ain't required, all right? Mind your business. Go do something with policy that helps people. That's what you should be getting elected on, not going and trashing the other guy. That's like elementary school kind of stuff, and even elementary kids are smarter than that. To say grow up would be useless to say to you, but just saying it, grow up, you know? Grow up there. Get on with it. Get some policy. What's your policy to make the world better? Right now, all you got is people trashing the people in the country, trashing the history of the country and what have you. Tearing up streets, and you can't blame Trump. He keeps saying, I'll send out the guard just to ask me to come because it's against the law for me to just do it. He has to go against something called the Insurrection Act. He has to call in on the Insurrection Act and say, I'm gonna do it because of behavior, which ain't been done since like the 1800s, what have you. Well, at least in any major way. I think it was done back in, back in the 80s and 90s? I think it was done back in the 90s. They did it with stuff going on in California. But he's trying to follow the law and let the governors do it, but they ain't doing it there in some of these states. I mean, stop blaming him for the problems that are on the street. He ain't responsible for those people. Let go of the man's taxes, for crying out loud. It's over. If you want to go after his taxes after he's out of office, go after he's out of office, but for crying out loud, talk about policy right now. His taxes ain't consequential to what this country got to do. If you got better policies than his, show them. Tell the people what the policies are you got there. If you got better judge nominees, tell the people what your judge nominees are there. Stop worrying about the man's taxes and you start worrying about policy, because let me tell you something right there. If your policies are better than his, which you think may influence his money situation there, then you'll win. If you're talking about rhetoric that can affect you or affect the people more to where they'll vote for him, let me tell you something. Like 90% of the media out there don't like Trump, all right? They're a bunch of commentators and little petty kids. And I mean less mature than kids in most cases there. So you got plenty of chances to diss this man. People just don't believe you anymore. At least not anyone with half a brain, because you ain't offering policy there. Offer some policy. And let go of the Texas thing. What do you think? Leave your opinion down there in the comments there. And also feel free to call the hotline at 505-585-0500. Again, 505-585-0500. Hope you have a good rest of the day there, and I'll talk to you later. Appreciate you listening, and God bless you.